This is the Business of Leadership Series Minute with your host, the best-selling author of Don't Buy a Duck and founder of MarketingStrategyHero.com, Derek Champagne.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where our goal is to inspire you to become the best leader that you can be. Our guest today, Ishveen Anand. She is the CEO and founder of Open Sponsorship. Ishveen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Derek, for having me on.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. What are you most proud of to date? It can be a big moment. It can be a small moment. Small moments are big sometimes too. But what's your proudest memory or your proudest accomplishment?
I mean, there's quite a few, and it's obviously like there's a good team of us. I think one of them that does stand out is we managed to get an investment from Baron Davis, who's the NBA All-Star. Mm-hmm. And I'd say the reason why, and I know there's a lot of athletes who are investing in startups, but you have to realize Baron Davis was basically retiring from basketball. I basically just moved to the country, so I moved here 2013, and I had no background in American sports. I basically knew my husband and two other people in America, and so him investing in us showed that you can break through all those barriers and you can get in front of someone and you can deliver the pitch. And it took about, I met him for the first time at CES in Vegas, and then he invested in us in July. And it was a sizable check. And I just think for me, it gave me a lot of validation that an NBA All-Star invested in us. But personally, I felt here's a British Indian girl who had no reason being in that room. I managed, and it says a lot about him, but it was also a very proud moment for me.
Thanks. That's amazing. That's quite an accomplishment. And I know it's been a fast ride. It probably feels like a long time when you're in the day to day, but it's moved fast. And looking, I've had several companies. Some have failed and some have done all right, but they haven't always launched and grown as quickly as what you're doing. So that's really big kudos to you for that. I want to ask you a few more questions. One is, the question of balance comes up all the time. So, how do you how do you find balance? How do you find time for hobbies and your health? But I want to know in that conversation, how do you take time to celebrate wins with all the things that are happening? What do you do? How do you do that? I know a lot of ambitious people move right past those things, myself included. We're on to the next thing and we're building. How do you take time to celebrate wins?
Yeah, it's really important. Great question, really important. So micro things that we'll do is, so we get an email every time a deal is accepted. It feels really nice, and it could be the smallest deal, it could be a big deal. I think making sure that you have systems in place to let people know, so everyone in our company gets it, and our advisor gets it, my husband gets it, and so I think those little things really help. So I would encourage everyone to have you meet a lot of startups where a bell goes off every time every time a customer signs up. A lot of times it's not about someone chanting the success, it's just about you having a process that allows you to enjoy them. So I think that's really important. I do think that if celebrating success is so important for team morale, because conversely, when it's not going successful, you do have to highlight it. And so if you don't celebrate the success, for people who don't, who think it's unimportant, what happens is then you only have a culture of highlighting the negative, not the positive. So super important to do that. And then I do think there are things like you're saying. I think as a CEO founder, it is really hard when you're well, I've still got so much more to do, right? We are in the process of signing a major media company, and I know the second that we sign them, it's going to be cool, what next?
Right.
So I think that is difficult, but then the point being is as long as we've got the email that tells us when they do deals, and as long as, in our monthly meeting, we can be here are the new people that have signed up, and we've got the processes in place to let everyone know, I think it's a good enough job.